Quinn Ewers taking part in Leonardo DiCaprio's season and says, you know what? I'm not leaving. Run that back for another year on the 40 acres. What does it mean for Texas? What sense does it make for Quinn Ewers as it pertains to his ultimate goal of playing in the NFL? We'll talk about that. Make sure you're dialed in right here. Make sure you subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel, talking college football every single day. Want y'all a part of it. Appreciate y'all in advance for being tuned in. So, for Quinn Ewers, staying at Texas, this is not ultimately surprising. There was reports, even during the season, that he was 90% leaning towards coming back to Texas. But then they win the Big 12 and they make the college football playoff. And it was fair to have a little bit of curiosity as it pertains to him maybe wanting to test the NFL draft waters. But I think this makes a lot of sense for his ultimate goal of wanting to play in the NFL. And here's why. This year's NFL quarterback class, when it comes to the NFL draft, is stacked. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr. You go down the list here, there's a lot of dudes that can sling the pill around the yard. Not to say anything of what Quinn Ewers' ability is or isn't, but I think you look to next year, and I feel like it's pretty wide open. You got Shedeur Sanders, you got Carson Beck, who's a stud, who I think could end up being one of the top guys. Quinn Ewers is going to challenge to be that top guy. There's going to be a lot of guys in next year's class as well, but it feels to me like a little bit more wide open heading into this next season. So with a great year, Quinn Ewers could make himself QB1 in the 2024, 2025, what would that be? In next year's NFL draft is the bottom line. Also, when it comes to the NFL, talking to people in the scouting world, they tell me hey, it's about having the most football played possible before you leave for the NFL. They want to have the best sample size possible before they decide to spend a lot of money on drafting you to be the face of their franchise. And for Quinn Ewers, he's played over 20 games but hasn't been able to stay totally healthy throughout the duration of a season just yet. I think you come back to Texas for another year, improve even more on what you've done from this past year going into next year, and you improved a lot from the previous season into this season. You take another step forward in your maturation, your evolution, and I think you could be, honestly, set up for some really great success when it comes to what you want to be at the next level. So all this makes sense for Quinn Ewers from a personal standpoint. But for Texas, man, getting your QB1 back for another year, that is huge. Think about the continuity in the offense now with Steve Sarkisian getting his quarterback for now the third year as a starter. And yes, they'll lose some pieces offensively. It's going to happen. But at the exact same time, when you talk about having the most important piece of your offense back, to me, if I'm a Texas fan, I don't see any reason why we can't step into the SEC and make some noise in year one. Now, if Arch Manning were to be your quarterback going into this upcoming season, there would still be optimism, there would still be the excitement, but there would be a little bit more uneasiness in saying, hey, he's a redshirt freshman. Are we sure we want him to go out and play against the Georgias of the world from his very first experience playing college football? Quinn Ewers is the same dude that took you into SEC country last year. We saw it live in living color in person. Went into Bryant-Denny Stadium, slayed the Dragon by double digits. Dude was throwing the ball around the yard like a shady pharmacist. What he does, we actually missed that metaphor, dealed the pill like a shady pharmacist did Quinn Ewers. Bottom line, he was going crazy, and I think he has a chance to even build off of, like I said, what he did this past year. Because it's been steady improvement for him from year 1 to year 2 and now going into year 3. I think it's pretty fair to have some pretty sizable expectations for Texas their first year in the new conference. Now, a lot of people are going to ask this question. Well, what about Arch Manning? And for those of y'all that have been paying attention, if you're watching the show, you probably already know this, but if you're just now finding this show and this platform on the On3 YouTube channel, one, we're glad to have you here. Make sure you're subscribed. But Arch Manning's been pretty transparent about, hey, I never even looked into transferring. Even when it was thoughts to be a foregone conclusion that Quinn Ewers was going to come back before he announced it, Arch Manning was never a name that was coming up in the transfer portal rumor mill. It was always, he's staying at Texas. And the reason why Arch Manning committed to Texas, just to kind of put a finer point on this thing, he committed for Steve Sarkisian and for quarterback development and for that system. He's fine waiting another year. Everything he committed to Texas for is still very much so intact. So Arch isn't going anywhere. And for Texas, you got your guy to pick up where he left off this past season after winning the Big 12, your last year in the conference, making the college football playoff the last year of the 4-team era. Texas has their QB1 for the third straight year heading into the SEC. I can't wait to watch it, man, because we know when Steve Sarkisian has got his quarterback and he's been able to have some weapons around his quarterback, and we'll see where they stand with that in spring football and I guess early in the fall, but You got Quinn Ewers, you got a quarterback, you got a chance on the 40. Make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Pickell. Let me know how you feel about Quinn Ewers coming back for another year in Austin. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.